Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest never planned on having a career as a corrections educator, but from her first day teaching inside Oregon's oldest maximum security prison, she knew she was where she was supposed to be. Here to share a little of her story, we welcome the author of Teaching to a Captive Audience, Lois Colton. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
How did you end up teaching at a men's-only maximum security prison?
By accident.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I truly didn't know what I was applying for.
Yeah.
I was an adult. I had just recently gotten a master's degree in adult education, and I was doing what I call the community college run. I would teach at a lot of different schools around Portland, and I was a single mother, and I needed a full-time job, and I saw one in the Oregonian, Chemeketa Community College, looking for a adult educating, full-time educate, basic skills in English as a second language job. So I applied for it. It said corrections, but I didn't know what that part meant. And I filled out all my information and everything, and I was in the interview, and it was a pretty extensive interview where you had to do a lesson and all of that.
Oh, wow.
And finally, they kept asking me these questions, and finally, they asked me, the way I say it in the book, they leaned forward and they said, "What do you think it would be like to teach inside of a prison?"
Ooh.
And I was like,
wow.
I don't have any idea. And ultimately I said, so where would my classroom be? And who would my students be? And that's how I discovered that it was going to be, that the job I was applying for was actually inside of a prison. And
you have no idea, when you're meeting these students, you have no idea why they're there, like why they were sentenced to be in this maximum security prison.
No.
Right? Okay.
I always had access to their records.
Sure.
But I chose not to know.
Right,
you know?
right.
They were my students.
And they were in the class because they wanted to be? They wanted to learn?
No. It was part of their correction plan.
Okay.
If they didn't have a GED or a high school diploma, then they would be assigned to school.
Okay, how were the students?
Fantastic.
For those who didn't want to be there, they were fantastic.
They were fantastic students. They were exquisite. It was a wonderful teaching experience for me.
How so?
Well, for one thing, we created a classrooms have personalities, and we created a classroom atmosphere that was so welcoming, so creative, so exciting, and cooperative and civil, that the students would catch it, you know?
Oh.
They would come in, and I'd sort of give it physically. Sometimes, they'd come in first, it's kind of like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, I'm too cool for school.
I hate school.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody else was kind of having fun, and so before long, individuals would sort of catch the energy, you know. And I would stand at the door and welcome them to the party, and I always felt like my planning and that I was preparing for a party, for an event.
Oh, wow, that's
Every
great.
day I felt like that.
You were changing lives, honestly. You really were, right? I mean, once people are educated, the more they realize that they have control, they can do better, I would think. I understand some of the students then became tutors teaching other prisoners.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That had to be satisfying.
It's incredibly satisfying.
Yeah.
The job turned out to be a tremendous gift to my life.
You were never fearful?
No, oddly enough,
You're the only woman in the prison.
No, well, initially, early on. Now there are a lot of women inside who work inside. There are more officers, there are more, administrators.
Sure.
But initially, the only women around were nurses or a few educators.
I understand that it's like a big sports culture. So did you have to learn about sports a bit, or did you already know about sports?
No, I didn't know very much about sports. And in the classroom, I didn't, I would listen to them talk about things that were happening, in terms of the sports that they were playing.
Sure.
Sports are very important inside a prison. And so I would listen to them talking about, the games they were playing, or how many
So you connected with them?
Oh, totally.
Totally connected with them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is wrong with our prison system? Because you have to have analyzed that.
Well, among other things, it's an enormous waste of human potential.
Yeah.
And I think the tragedy of that was the part that distressed me the most.
Do you think when young people aren't educated, that can often lead to the prison system?
Yeah, you drop out of school, it's one of the early steps.
Right.
Unfortunately, it is. It's not always a step, of course, but it can be. It's one of the early, first markers.
Did you ever get to know any of the men outside the prison, like when they were released? Did you ever get to meet them or know them?
Normally you didn't.
Yeah.
We weren't, our outside connections were restricted. We
Sure.
didn't do that. But, I occasionally I would run into somebody,
Oh,
and
wow.
there was someone who lived in my community after I retired, and I did run into him.
What did he say?
He literally put his arms around me, which was unusual.
Yeah.
But he just said, "You changed my life.
Wow.
You changed my life."
Wow.
And they changed my life too.
Yeah.
They did. The men changed my life. They taught me about resilience and creativity and initiative. I mean, you can't believe what men can do inside a prison with very few materials.
Yeah.
The kinds of beautiful artwork they create with colored pencils or toilet paper or
Yeah.
wrappers from
Chewing gum or?
yeah, or string from their socks.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I have pieces of macrame jewelry
Oh, wow.
that is made from the threads of socks.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Your book again is titled Teaching to a Captive Audience, and you have a book event Friday at Bold Coffee and Books. It's on Southwest Jefferson. We're going to put all of that on our website at k2.com. Lois Colton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for changing lives.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.